If you wouldn't just mind just giving me just a bit of an intro as to who you are, where you're based, and what you do.
So, yeah, my name is Catherine. I'm based just outside Cambridge in a lovely little village in the countryside. My company is called All Things Considered, which I set up in January with the aim of showing people that you can have a sustainable event that's equally as stylish. So I focus on kind of styling, venue decor. I've got a design background, so a little bit of design, that sort of thing. And kind of my ethos is really, I think, very similar to yours, as I've just seen having a look at your website. It's about like not being judgmental, just being, gentle with people, and everyone sort of comes into events with their own experiences, their history, their predisposed ideas about what sustainability is. So it's my job to kind of make it easy, creative. I want it to be fun for people. Yeah. Whether you're getting married or organising a big corporate event. So.
And do you do both? You do weddings and corporate events?
Yes, yeah. Good. So I've worked in corporate events. I've got quite a good kind of network built up that way. So putting quite a lot of my focus into getting myself known in the wedding industry at the moment as well. Sustainability is like really important to them, and they're sort of seeing the bigger picture rather than it being focused on,
just one day
that has to be. I mean, I've just actually been talking about this, about how there's just so much pressure on this one day being perfect, and it just just blows everything up and makes it, feel so much more pressurized. So I want to help people see that.
And I think, that the rustic weddings, the sustainable weddings, eco weddings, are so trendy at the moment. They look stunning. I would opt for that over, a traditional wedding any day of the year. So awesome. So what made you sort of decide to focus on bringing sustainability into your business? So what was your sort of driving force or your motivation as to not just set up another wedding planning business or another event planning business? Why did you want sustainability to feature so much?
I think it's just because, I've been really privileged and worked on some incredible events over the last 10 or so years, but I think like you, I've kind of seen how much of an environmental impact they can have, and the fact that, these things get bought in, all these resources get built in, these things get built for people to enjoy for half a day or a couple of days, and then it's all just torn down, and there's not usually a whole lot of thought about where it's going afterwards. And so I just thought that there is a better way to do this, and that it doesn't need to be this big deal, all encompassing. Like, you can just be a bit creative with it and look at things in a slightly different way and reevaluate your priorities to make changes to your events.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that needs to be shared around. You haven't got to compromise on the experience, like you were saying. You can still have an amazing day or an amazing event, just without the bad bits. So, yeah, totally.
Yeah, completely.
Okay. Now this is a hard one, but in one word, and it's really difficult. But if someone was to say to you, how would you define sustainability or sustainable events or sustainable development in one word, what would you use to describe it? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I think the one word I would use to describe it means to me is balance.
Yes. Good. Very good. That's good. Perfect. Okay, cool. So besides the current pandemic that we're all struggling with at the moment, so before all of this sort of kicked off, what was the sort of the key challenge that you were finding trying to bring sustainability into events? What was the sort of the biggest pushback or the biggest barrier that you were having to people sort of getting on board with what you were doing?
So I think probably like the main thing is helping people to see past the obvious. So there's obviously loads of stuff out there about like single-use plastics and things, and so the obvious thing would be to like swap out plastic bottles, which is a great thing to do. But then there's other things you can think about, like unnecessary giving away of stuff at events as well. And my biggest bugbear at the moment, which is t-shirts.
Yeah.
So people either giving away t-shirts or creating new you know, branded t-shirts for their staff and volunteers to wear that a lot of the times haven't come from a very ethical place.
Yeah.
And also they're a thing that people are just going to wear once and it's going to go.
Yeah, all dated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dated, just going to end up in some other country in their landfill somewhere. So yeah, I think that's it. Thinking about, there's the surface level, the obvious things you can do that really maybe, you know, that people will notice and will be making the difference. But then there's so many other things that you perhaps haven't thought. I mean, it's understandable you haven't thought about it, but you know, it seems like a great idea to have a branded t-shirt, and it's a really good thing for your brand and being visible. But then just thinking about where it's come from, where it's going afterwards as well.
Yeah, and it is, and it's that whole circular economy about, you know, what do you need and can you strip any of that away? How are you going to use it? What are you going to do with it afterwards? And yeah, like you say, where is it sourced from in the beginning? And I think it is exactly that. You know, so if you say you did want to do t-shirts, you don't have to compromise on that. You can say, okay, let's do that, but where are we getting them from? And afterwards, can they be donated to a charity or the community or a local school or something? So like you say, it's just thinking about it on that next level, rather than just the here and the now and what you need for today. So yeah, no, that's brilliant. Super, thank you. Can you recommend another sustainable business or a partner, someone you've either worked with or you've seen that has sort of impressed you or inspired you? Anyone that you would recommend?
Yeah, so I did actually have one, but since we've been on the topic of t-shirts as well,
They've been replaced.
Yeah, they've been replaced, and I'll mention them as well. On the topic of t-shirts, though, there's a company called T-Mill, and they have a retail arm as well called Rapa Nui, and they're actually based on the Isle of Wight. And so one of the things you can do if you're wanting to have t-shirts and things for your event is they make them, and they make them from old t-shirts, and they can brand them however you want. When you're done with them, you send them back to them, and then they'll recycle them again into another set of t-shirts. So that's kind of a circular economy idea. And then the other one, because we've just had Easter and chocolates on our mind, is Tony's Chocolonely, because their chocolate is incredible. It's 100% slave free, and not just their chocolate, but they have this big mission that they want to make all chocolate slave free. So they're kind of putting back into their industry as well, rather than just focusing on how they're doing things.
Cool. So there's like a whole education arm to it as well.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of theirs, you know, because of their ethos and also because of the taste of their chocolate.
Yeah, definitely. Can't argue with that. Super. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone, either an event manager or someone about to embark on running an event or a wedding, and someone who wanted to make their event more sustainable, and to try and, you know, get them on board, I guess, you know, it's all about baby steps, trying to make it as achievable as possible. What would your sort of one piece of advice be to get people involved?
So, I mean, it's probably going to scare a lot of event planners out there when I say this, but it would be to slow down, which I know is easier said than done. I mean, you've got budgets to think about, you've got stakeholders to please. And usually, I know you probably found when corporate events, these things need to be organised with really short time scales as well. But I think, so for example, before you just kind of dive in and place order for things, what I really kind of mean by slowing down is thinking about things, and as we were just saying, thinking about what's really necessary, what you really need, having the aim of your event at the forefront of your mind, so that every time you need to make decisions about things on the event, that's there and you're referring back to that. So is buying this thing really necessary? You know, can I have a fantastic gala dinner that's 3 courses instead of 6? You know, can I not give out things? Can I put more of my budget into experiences instead of things, and leave people with memorable, you know, experiences, rather than having something they can take home maybe for a little while.
Exactly. And I think that is so key, because I think the issue and the challenge that people have is they think about sustainability at the 11th hour, and you think, oh, you know, we've got an event in 2 weeks, oh, we need to be sustainable. And, you know, often by then you are limited with your choices and your options. Whereas if you build it in to your strategy at the beginning, you know, you, like you say, you have a lot more time to play with and things to think about. So yeah, that's a great one. Excellent. Cool. So then did these just sort of next couple of questions are just around sort of sort of current status at the moment, and sort of how do we see the industry changing sort of post COVID-19. So at the moment, are you still working on live events? Have you sort of switched to doing sort of virtual things, or are you sort of just on pause and sort of waiting for things to sort of get back to normal? What's your status at the moment?
Yeah, it's very much on pause. A lot of the events that I had coming up this the spring summer have just been postponed to next year. So yeah, most of them it's kind of we're just waiting because we don't know how other suppliers are going to be after the end of this as well. So rather than try and push things forward and have them change again, we're just pausing until.
Yeah, and it's hard, isn't it? Because I was working on an event supposed to have been happening in May. It's been postponed until July. I mean, who knows when to postpone things still, because you just don't know when things are going to be back to normal. And even if the industry and the government say, yeah, it's fine, are people still going to attend? You know, I think there's going to be a lot of sort of nervousness around it. So, yeah, no, that's understandable. And do you think, you know, sustainability, I think, we've struggled to get it on the agenda at all in the past.
Yeah.
You know, in different companies have different motivations, and you sort of, some people are more receptive than others. But do you think following the coronavirus, it will have sort of more of a focus and more sort of budget and attention will be given to it? Or do you think it will be something that gets sort of sidelined because people are focusing on sort of the economic development? Or how do you think it will go, sort of increased or sidelined?
I think it probably depends on the business, the size of the business, and what is important to them. I really hope it will increase, because I think that the way that we're living at the moment is hopefully showing people that sustainability is more accessible. You know, our worlds have shrunk, and we're so much more focused on local suppliers, local businesses, and supporting them, which is, you know, hopefully shows people that that's something you can do when it comes to organising your event. And we are more focused on only buying what we need, which again we've talked about is something that you can, if you have that at the forefront of your mind when event planning, that can make a huge difference. Just a small thing. So
and it has definitely highlighted, you know, what you need to survive.
Yeah.
And I was on a call earlier actually around sort of that level of expectation, and that, you know, in the past, you know, you expect things to be next day delivery, whereas now people are a bit more understanding if something's going to take 2 weeks to come. I mean, nobody needs anything next day, you know,
Right.
So it's all about sort of setting those expectations. But there are definitely a lot of similarities between you know, the coronavirus and the sort of, you know, the worldwide sort of climate crisis, and there's, I think, a lot of similarities that can be drawn from both. So it's just a sensitive one around, you know, the human life that's been lost and businesses that have folded as a result, that it's difficult to sort of shoehorn sustainability in. But I think there's a lot of learnings that could be applied to both. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. How optimistic are you about sort of live events post coronavirus, and how do you think the sort of the industry might change or should change? I guess is the operative word.
I'm pretty optimistic. I think that people will be craving human connection more than ever at the moment, and that's sort of what we do in live events, is we bring people together. So I think that there will be more of a need for ethical. I think people will ask questions a lot more of event organisers and be wanting things to be more sustainable, because, you know, of the way we've been living and everything. There probably will be more virtual events, I think, because we've shown how easy it is to do that. And I think for the types of events where you're just disseminating information, giving out information, that sort of thing, that can go online. And I think probably a lot of people like that, the fact that it's recorded, they can watch it at a convenient time, they can watch it from home, they can multitask. If they got something on the stove, they can watch the event at the same time. But I think, in terms of people coming together, that there'll probably be more focus on connection and on experiences and on how people feel about being together and being at events.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I think there's a lot of events that probably can be removed, and like you say, can be switched to virtual. Sort of, it does make you think how many events are unnecessary, or how many meetings are unnecessary when they could have been a phone call, or it could have even been an email. So it would be good to sort of get rid of those, and then the ones that are remaining, ensure that they are real top notch, focusing on the customer experience and sort of the unforgettable experience. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Super. And then the last question then, what's the first thing when lockdown gets lifted? What's the first thing that you plan to do when you're free?
I want to give my mum a hug.
Ah, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I usually see her at least once a week, so it's been tough. And I've got nieces to see, so yeah, just reconnecting in person with people. I mean, as we were saying, technology's been amazing for still feeling connected to people, but it's not, a substitute for being able to interact face to face with people, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, no so equivalent for a virtual hug, is there? So
Yeah.
oh, that's brilliant. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or anything that you think we haven't covered or you wanted to include?
No, I don't think so. They were a really, really good set of questions and really made me think about some things that I'd not been previously thinking about what things are going to look like afterwards. So just been kind of day by day, step by step, but it's quite useful to look ahead and think what we can take out of this.